top 15 kickers heading into week 13 here. Justin Tucker of the Baltimore Ravens. This guy, he's going to be always number one on your kicker list each and every week. I know his numbers haven't been as great as you think they would be with Tucker because this Baltimore offense just hasn't been that good like it was last season when they were breaking all kinds of record and put up historic numbers. But Tucker versus Dallas, he's going to get a lot of opportunities. I think he's going to have a great ball game. And this is a guy, he don't miss field goals, so I'm going to put him here at number one. Number two, Young-Ho Koo of the Atlanta Falcons. Koo, this guy, he's putting up huge fantasy points of late. 20 fantasy points last week, including 2 50-yarders he hit each and every week. It looks like he's in position to hit a 50, 55-yarder for the Falcons. And those big 5 points are huge for fantasy football. That's pretty much like a touchdown. And Koo, it's looking like he gets 1 or 2 of those, like I said, a game. Versus New Orleans, again, I could see a lot of red zone opportunities for the Falcons where they just can't get it in the end zone, where Koo would have to settle for a field goal. So Koo here having a great season. I'm putting him number 2. Number 3, Will Lutz. We're staying in the same game. Lutz, another consistent kicker, one of the best in the leagues. He hits all his extra points, and his field goal is pretty much his Lutz. And he's got a great matchup versus Atlanta, who gives up a bunch of points in football and fantasy football, obviously. So Lutz, I think he have a good game. I think he's going to score double digits, and he's a guy you just plug in your lineup each and every week, and you don't have to worry about him. Number 4, Jason Sanders of the Miami Dolphins. He's got another great matchup versus Cincinnati. He's a guy that hits a lot of 50-yarders as well, and he's a guy that can really kick good and accurate. He's only missed 1 field goal on the season, is Sanders. And Miami's another team where they don't punch it in the end zone, and he's good for 2 or 3 kicks a game, is Sanders. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him get 12 to 15 fantasy points in this ball game versus Cincinnati, is Sanders. The next guy I like here is Tyler Bess of the Buffalo Bills at kicker. Bess, now he's going to versus San Francisco, and like I keep saying, this ball game is in Arizona. Frisco's going to play their home games there, and Bess, he had an 18-point fantasy day last time with 3 50-yard plus field goals. And in this game versus Frisco, it's a kicker's field. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities. And again, I think he's going to find double digits. Once again, is Tyler Bass here in this. Number 6, Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. Butker, he's been up and down this season. He's been hitting field goals while missing extra points. The Chiefs, they punch a lot of their opportunities into the end zone. But this week versus the Denver Broncos, Butker had his best game of the season with 14 fantasy points versus Denver. And this week I could see him have a similar type of game. This is a division ball game. You know, Denver, they don't want to get embarrassed too bad. And they're going to try to hold Kansas City at least to a few field goals and try to make this game look close. I could see Butker hitting 3 or 4 field goals in this ball game. So he's a guy I got in number 6. Number 7, Rodrigo Blankenship of the Indianapolis Colts. He's been pretty good this season in his rookie year's Blankenship. Now he goes to Houston, another indoor game, and this time of season with bad weather and bad field conditions, it's good to be indoors. And Rodrigo, most of his ball games are going to be indoors now the rest of the way. Here's another one this week versus Houston, and I think he's going to get double-digit fantasy points as well as Rodrigo Blankenship. And I ranked him 7th the rest of the season as a kicker, so check that out too, that video. Number 8, Daniel Carlson of the Oakland Raiders. This week he's got a great matchup versus the New York Jets that give up a bunch of points to teams and kickers. And Carlson, he's a top 5 fantasy kicker this season in points. This week, I could see him have many opportunities in this ball game to put it through the uprights and get the job done. So Carlson, he's a good start, and I got him in number 8. Number 9, Jason Myers of the Seattle Seahawks. Myers here, he's been a good kicker this season, but the only thing that hasn't been on his side is opportunities. But now the last 3 or 4 weeks, he's scoring and kicking balls through the uprights, and he's got double-digit fantasy points in 3 out of his 4 last fantasy games at kicking. And Myers versus the Giants, I think he's going to probably reach double digits once again in this ball game. And Seattle's home, number 10, Greg the Legs Erline of the Dallas Cowboys. He's got a pretty decent matchup versus Baltimore. I don't think Dallas is going to have many opportunities to punch it in the end zone. And I could see Greg the Leg attempting a few field goals in this ball game and a few deep ones as well. Greg the Leg, you know he's good for a couple long ones, 50, 40, 50-yarders. And in this game, I could see him hit 2 or 3 of them, is Zerline. So I think he'll have a good ball game this week, is Zerline. The next guy's Graham Gano of the New York Giants. This guy, he's been putting up double-digit fantasy points now in his last 3 weeks. They're going to Seattle. This ball game, I'm going to think they're going to try to control it and play well. So Graham Gano, I think he's going to get double digits once again. And this is a game where I could see the Giants only scoring anywhere from 12 to 18 points. Again, I think he's going to have opportunities, and I think he's going to have a decent game. Number 12, Chris Boswell of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Boswell, he didn't have a great game versus Baltimore in the Week 12 matchup, missing an extra point. But in this game, I think he's going to find double digits possibly versus Washington. Washington, they give up a tons of points. Pittsburgh, they're rolling, obviously. They're undefeated this season, and this is a team that has 5 or 6 red zone attempts each and every game. And Boswell, I think this game he'll be fine, but for the rest of the season, I don't like his outlook. But versus Washington, that's poor versus teams on defense, I think he's going to be fine. Number 13 is Matt Prater of the Detroit Lions. He goes to Chicago this week. Tough field conditions it's going to be. You would hope Prater had a home game this week, but the next 3 games, I think he's going to be indoors. And Prater, he's a guy that's good for a 40 or 50-yarder each and every week pretty much. So it won't surprise me this week if he hits one of those, but I could only see him getting 5 to 8 fantasy points. That's still better than nothing. Number 14, Dan Bailey of the Minnesota Vikings. He's a guy that's not on my top 15 in kickers for the rest of the season, but this week this is a matchup you can't pass up. So Dan Bailey, his ownage went up off waivers a little because of the matchup here. Like I said, Jacksonville gives up the 3rd most fantasy points to kickers, and I think this Minnesota team, they're going to be in the red zone all ball game, and Bailey, he might have 2 or 3 attempts at a couple field goals, so I think he'll be a decent start. And the 15th and final kicker, I'm going to rank here in Week 13, Zane Gonzalez of the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals finally go back home this week, is Gonzalez and the Cardinals. And I think Gonzalez, he's going to have a few opportunities. They verse the Rams. The Rams are a bend and don't break defense. So there's going to be opportunities where they're going to have to settle for a few field goals in this ball game, I believe. So that's the top 15 kickers I got ranked here heading into Week 13.